Hi, it's Andy. I'm here with Kyle Correctfee, and Kyle is a corporate pilot, and Kyle's going to walk us through what it takes to be a corporate pilot, his experience, and we're starting right now.
First of all, what is a corporate pilot? Let's talk about there's airlines, there's the military pilots, and then there's corporate pilots. So I use the term corporate pilots for businesses, essentially. Businesses own aircraft and they hire flight crews like myself to fly these airplanes. The difference is they don't have a set schedule like the airlines. So this corporation or this personal owner can fly them wherever they want, whenever they want, and it's completely different from the life of an airline pilot. All right, so what do I do as a pilot? So that's, I guess, a bigger question when you're a corporate pilot than when you're an airline pilot. It's very defined when you're an airline pilot. You go to work, you have a certain city pair that you're going to, and you're done. In corporate aviation, oftentimes it doesn't stop with flying the plane. When you're done flying the plane, sometimes you're with a management company like I am, and they handle a lot of the accounting and the billing and so forth. But in addition to my pilot duties, there are quite a bit of scheduling that we work with the principals and the corporations directly. There's maintenance that has to be taken care of, the flight attendants sourcing food, cleaning the aircraft, and that's done in many different ways. You cannot define in corporate aviation it's done one way because it's done many, many, many different ways. Yeah, my job is, I guess, a little bit maybe larger in scope than a traditional pilot's job. But anybody in corporate aviation has a little bit larger scope. So if you just want to fly and go home, that would probably be the airlines. My mom was a pilot, my dad was a Navy pilot, my grandpa owned a Piper Cherokee. I had quite a few people around me that loved aviation. They all said, don't become a pilot. So kind of a twist there, but what they meant was my dad got shot at over Vietnam, and he said the airlines are boring and you don't want to go in the military. So he said no. My grandfather said, well, the way to become a pilot is to build a business, get a business degree, which I did, business administration from Cal State Fullerton, and then go buy your own plane, and that's how you fly on weekends. So everybody in my family had a different view on what it was to be a pilot. How did I get into it? Really, I grew up as a little kid. I could show you pictures, 3 or 4 years old, hopping into Grandpa's Piper Cherokee and going for rides. I was around North Island a little bit in San Diego, seeing my dad with the Navy, and then really just got into it privately at my home airstrip in Carlsbad, California. Well, you start in single engine planes first. So I got into Cessna 152, 72s, that type of thing, which most everybody does. Then after you get your private pilot's rating, you get an instrument rating. That allows you to fly in the clouds. Then you go to commercial rating. That means you can actually fly people for money. You can get paid to fly people. Right after the commercial rating, I was able to get into a charter company and start developing twin engine time. So twin engine time turns from piston into turbine time. And then once you have some turbine time, some jet time, you can move on to a straight jet, which I did. So you start out as first officer or co-pilot in the right seat, and then you move to the left seat. And the real big step is to get a type rating. So that's where somebody pays for you to go off to school for usually 2 to 4 weeks of simulator school, and it could cost anywhere from $20,000 to $150,000 for you to go to school to learn one specific type of plane. So that's called a type rating, and I've developed and accrued a lot of those over the years. I did go to the airlines, and I flew up until September 11th in a Canadair regional jet, so kind of a commuter airline. After that, came back into corporate, so I just took a slight departure from corporate and came back with the airlines. And then I've been flying for private owners and corporations ever since. So as far as education goes, currently there's not a requirement for a college degree either at the airlines or really corporate aviation. We have a hiring boom like I've never seen in the last 25 years of doing this. Right now, there's going to be a demand for pilots that's never been seen before. I think I read 30,000 pilots are needed by like 2032 or 33 or something like that. So what I'm trying to say is there's not, whenever there's a pilot certificate that goes into the system, a new pilot is created, that is not keeping up with demand. And with the airlines having a retirement age of 65, that is, they're done when they're 65. So essentially, we're not creating enough pilots right now to fill the demand, both at the airlines, the military, or corporate aviation, to really handle that. So it's really, really, really a fantastic time to get into aviation, whether you're a young guy, girl, whether you want to be a mechanic, flight attendant, you name it. There's even schedulers and dispatchers. It's just a fantastic time, and the pay has been going up faster than we've really seen it ever since COVID. There's been a lot of people that don't want to ride on the airlines anymore, and corporate jets have become even more popular since COVID. As far as salaries in corporate aviation, they're really all over the board. I think if you were just brand new, getting into maybe a King Air type of turboprop, as a first officer, it'd probably be about $50,000 a year. If you become captain in that same turboprop, you're up 80 to 100, maybe 120. Once you get into jets, it really goes from there, and it goes anywhere from 120,000 up to 300, maybe even close to 400,000, depending on the flight department you're in. If you're with a corporation, then you have all the corporate benefits that a regular person in that corporation would have, retirement, whatever benefits they have at, let's say, Disney or a Nike or whatever the company is, you would get those benefits as well. So really the salary is all over the place. It kind of depends on your experience, your attitude, and what you bring to the table. I think it takes passion. It takes somebody that wants to look up in the sky and see airplanes flying over their head, and how do I get around airplanes? I'll wash them, I'll talk to pilots, I'll ride for free, just to learn. Whatever it is, I want to see that kind of passion that comes out of somebody, as opposed to, if I pay X and I go to school for this many days, how much am I going to get paid? How many days off a week am I going to get? Those are all going to come. You're going to, have that terrific lifestyle and career, but it's not going to happen day one. And so what I do see sometimes in this younger generation is they want it all now. And so we do have to work for it in either the airlines or corporate aviation. But I think you got to be willing to work. You need to be able to follow checklists, procedures. You need to be able to submit to authority. You need to understand who the principals or the people paying your paycheck are, and what type of service they're looking for in corporate aviation, which is food service, and the ride in the back is very important. So we might fly at higher elevations or even lower elevations to avoid turbulence, where airline pilots oftentimes, for efficiencies and cost, they have to stay at a certain altitude because that's the most efficient altitude for that airplane. But again, we have to think outside the box. How can we do things differently? How can we please the owner of the company, the corporation, or the principals? So as far as destinations and amazing things that you can see while being a pilot, obviously sunrises and sunsets over an overcast layer, or especially if there's thunderstorms around and you're dodging and so forth. There's some amazing scenes in the sky, but probably the most amazing scenes and things I've seen have been on the ground. Once we've landed, Easter Island's an island off of Chile on your way to New Zealand. It's the only thing out there. We landed there and actually went there as a destination for about 4 or 5 days. Pretty fantastic. Atacama Desert in Chile, darkest spot on Earth, so you can see the stars like nowhere else. There's just been a lot of amazing places. I've been to from Israel, Tel Aviv, to Abu Dhabi, Dubai, of course, all over the Caribbean and Hawaii and Canada. Asia's pretty fascinating. There's just so much to see, and Europe is just a fantastic place. A lot of these corporations or owners of corporate jets, they go to the Caribbean quite often. So the Mediterranean you got to get used to if you're going to be a corporate pilot, because oftentimes you're going there for them to get on a yacht. So sometimes we'll chase a yacht, and I did that for almost 10 years. where the yacht would go through the Panama Canal. So maybe we'd go down to Costa Rica for a week, and then the yacht would keep going to the Caribbean. So then you'd go there a couple weeks later for a week. You would eventually end up in the Mediterranean. You'd end up there, Monte Carlo Grand Prix. I don't know, all the big events. I've been to many Super Bowls. There's just some fantastic trips you're gonna go on. And any big sporting events or world events, oftentimes you might be there in a corporate jet.